Welcome back to Coffee with Yvonne, a show for creatives and entrepreneurs. I'm Yvonne Pearson, your host and the founder of Pink Dollhouse Marketing. Instead of our usual marketing magic, we're going to do a recap of the first ever Black Women Marketers Conference that recently happened here in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm really excited to talk about this because this is something that I've been looking forward to going to for the past couple of months. And now that the event has wrapped and I've actually had the experience of attending, I want to share with you, my digital audience, and my fellow Coffee with Yvonne friends about the experience and key takeaways that I have learned from the event, and also things I think that can help further amplify, improve, and grow the conference to the next level. So grab your coffee and let's chat. Ooh, I didn't do a good job this week. I'm going to keep it real with y'all. This is not my favorite concoction. So just to let you know, I did a French vanilla coffee, but I kind of made a mistake. Instead of adding milk, I did a Chobani sweet cream creamer, and then I added my cough drops in it. It don't taste good, so we're just gonna slide this to the side. I'm just gonna slide it to the side. Okay. So for this week's Marketing Magic episode, we're going to break down my experience at the conference. We're also going to talk about the Black Women Marketers Conference, what it's about and how it was created and its purpose. Then we're going to discuss those areas of opportunity. And then finally, why creating these spaces matter, especially as a Black woman who's been in marketing for 13 years. So first, let's get into what is the Black Women Marketers Conference. Market Hub 2025 is a 2-day marketing conference hosted by Black women marketers. This took place April 18th and 19th. So for those who need a date on their calendar, Easter weekend. This was in Arlington, Virginia, held at the Amazon HQ2 headquarters that recently opened in the Northern Virginia area. The goal is designed for diverse marketers, creatives, and entrepreneurs, offering hands-on workshops and sessions with topics like AI and communications, branding, and digital advocacy. The event emphasizes the practical learning and authentic networking as well as community building. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, hi! I am looking down at my screen because I bring notes to the conversation. I want to make sure that we're having an engaged and well-informed chat. So let's get into the conference experience. One thing, let me give the ladies behind, in fact, the whole team behind this conference, their flowers. The communication from the promotion to the actual day of the event lead up, it was clear. It was well branded. It was given the teasers that we all wanted, and it infused that cultural context that spoke to us in a way that only we can speak to each other. What I loved is when they noted that the conference was happening, they reached out using various channels. They gave promotion on social media to start amplifying awareness. Then there was also an opportunity to sign up for the newsletters to learn more when more information dropped about when tickets would go on sale or about teasers for speakers and workshops. Another thing I love in the pre-event comms is they gave the community an opportunity to participate. A lot of times with these conferences, just keeping it real with you, working in marketing, they tend to focus on speakers who have these big jobs, like the really important big jobs and things like that. And those of us who may have work that's just as important, but because it's not for a big company, like say a Nike or one of those big brands, you may get overlooked when it comes to speaking opportunities. What I loved about this conference is they gave everyone an opportunity to shoot their shot. You're Kobe, you're at the line, you have 10 seconds left, and you're shooting a shot to hopefully make it and win the game. That's what this conference gave everyone. No matter how big or small your platform was, no matter how many years experience you brought to the table, you had a chance to submit a workshop or be part of one of the panels. Another thing I loved about the conference, I didn't notice that my collar was up there. How come y'all didn't tell me that my collar was turned up? Anyway, another thing I loved about the conference is they just didn't want speakers that were going to focus on empowerment. Nothing wrong with conferences that are all about empowerment and things like that. But as Black women in this field of marketing, specifically Black women, we are a lot of times the few, or experience microaggressions in our field. And giving things like empowerment, while it's great, we really need the right tools. We really need the tools to remain competitive in these spaces and to make sure that when we come back from these conferences that we are bringing the right information to our teams who may have paid for us to attend this conference, and making sure that we are equipped to further lead those teams forward in the right direction based on the market trends. Another thing I loved when I got on site to the actual event, the on-site comms were darn near flawless. I love, and I do this note, and please don't judge me when I tell you this, but a lot of us marketers do this too. We take a lot of mental notes when we come to events. We are paying attention to all the little details. Marketer and PR girls, we kind of sit at the same table for this one. But when we go to an event, we're paying attention to the pre-event comms and the on-site experience. The on-site experience are the little things that people tend to miss. It's the directional signage. It's little things about where you can park, how far public transportation is in terms of walk or, Uber pickup and arrival places. Things like that are little things, are the details that tend to be overlooked. Also in that on-site experience are the teams that you choose to greet us when we get there. Is a team who's part of this event friendly? Are they knowledgeable about the things that are going on with this event? That makes us feel like we can actually enjoy the space that we're in and relax, right? And what I love about what the ladies did with the Black Women Marketers Conference is they were executing from the time that you walked in to the time that you left. Every team member who I engaged with knew what was going on. They were knowledgeable. They were able to have real conversations that did not feel surface level, in which they were receiving any feedback. They were actively engaging with the attendees and letting us know that we were seen in that space. Because sometimes when we go to these conferences, you can feel that it's a networking thing the moment you walk in the door. You don't think like, I'm going to walk away meeting my best friend at this conference or my new creative bestie. You know, when you walk in, all people care about is finding your LinkedIn information, finding out what you do for a living, and finding out how important you are. And to be honest with you, while that is great, I'm not the kind of person who I lead with my profession in every single conversation I'm in. It sometimes takes you a good 20 minutes to sometimes maybe an hour before you realize what I do for a living and how long I've been doing it for a living, because I don't want that to be my whole sense of self. While my profession, I'm very proud of the work that I have done in marketing. That is not the totality of who I am. What I love is being able to talk to people and getting to know them for who they are as a person that is separate from their career. If we get to that part of the conversation and we find out we have a lot in common in terms of what we do, that's just a bonus on top of the relationship we were already building. For the on-site comms, the team made sure the color story translated from not just social media, but again, that in-person engagement. When you're in the main event hall, the colors that were used inside the main event hall mirror the colors that were included in the campaign materials. And that is very important, especially as being Black women and expanding this window to women of color in the industry. Whenever we do any kind of event that tags our name to something this big, there's always going to be people looking for something to criticize. And we have to show up excellent every single time. And what the team has done in showing up in excellence, being consistent in the brand messaging, being consistent with the type of team that they have selected, whether it was the actual staff or the volunteers, making sure that everyone was invested in the work that needed to be done that day. Those are the things that make it so much of a greater experience, and also provides that word of mouth marketing that's very important to amplify awareness for things like this, especially as we continue to see inclusion and belonging be underneath a microscope in terms of its value in various spaces. This showed that when we work together and when we actually bring our knowledge to the table, as well as our culture for a sprinkle for some razzle dazzle, we can operate and build something even greater than they ever expected us to. So let's continue the conversation about the on-site experience, because again, I am a visual girl because you all the visuals, honey, according to Queen Bee. The activations. The activations for me were very well done. They were very well executed. I love the fact that they provided headshots. Headshots, for those of us who work in the industry, are very important because we use those on our LinkedIn. We use those for like any media kits or when we're pitching various speaking opportunities and we're looking to increase our visibility on a bigger stage. Having headshots there allowed for us to, get in front of the camera to show our personality, but knowing also too that the photographer behind the camera was another Black woman. Those are those little details. Because one thing I do have to share with you, I do worry so much when I get my headshot taken at professional events. I'm worried about the lighting. I'm worried about, are you going to get all this melanin glow on camera correct? Or am I going to show up ashy? Am I going to show up too light? Or are you going to try to make me look like something I'm not? Am I going to look like Yvonne when this picture comes out? And what I love by them having a Black photographer, it affirmed that we see you and we understand the challenge that you may have experienced with having headshots before. But having a Black woman photographer who understands our skin tones and also set up the lighting to make sure that that lighting was correct was a beautiful activation that I enjoyed. I didn't get a chance to take advantage of it because I was too busy being all over the place, meeting people and having fun. But I did see a long line and people who are excited to have a professional photo captured from the event. Next is the interactive photo booth. Now, one thing I do love when I go to an event is an interactive photo booth. Don't give me something where I could do a GIF or a fun photo to share on social media. Like, it is a time because it gives you a chance to express your personality. They had set up this interactive photo booth where you saw a lot of group shots happening, people doing individual photos while we hyped each other up. But it was really great how they branded it as well. And then also you had various options for how you wanted to share the photo. Whether you wanted a print option, you wanted to scan a QR code to download on your phone, or you can have something we can even airdrop it if you did a group picture so everyone gets a piece of the memory. Another thing I love with the interactive photo booth that we all kept mentioning was how wonderful the lighting was. When I tell you that melanin was giving, honey, the melanin was showing up on camera. I love that this was even thoughtful for how they did the interactive photo booth. We all showed up in our beautiful glows with our melanin in this space that allowed for us to have fun, but also feel like it looked like us when we saw the final product. And then last thing for activation that I'll mention, they had a sportswear brand, but another brand that I am very familiar with because I have followed them on social media for quite a few years now, Black Girl Vitamins. Black Girl Vitamins had a table there where they were giving away vitamins and also information about their product. If you're unfamiliar with Black Girl Vitamins, please take a moment to review their content on social media as well as visit their website. But Black Girl Vitamins has created a voice and a brand message that is centered around wellness for Black women in our culture. They have vitamins around PCOS, also vitamins for those who are going through, perimenopause or menopause. They have probiotics, probiotics, B12, hair, skin, and nails, and all the things. And what I love is the conference was not just centered around learning, but around focusing on our wellness as well. Because as Black women, taking care of ourselves is something that sometimes we need to do a better job about, myself included. But making sure that we're not putting our health on the back burner so we can show up as our best selves, whether it's at work, for our friends, or for our family. Now, let's talk about that networking. Again, the networking was, it's the culture for me. It's the culture, period. But the networking was just a wonderful piece added on to this experience. What I loved is, again, as someone who has gone to a number of marketing conferences, both here in the DMV area and throughout the United States for work, one commonality thread I have seen in networking is sometimes it feels very surface, right? People have their business cards already in their hand or their QR code ready for you to scan it and, meet them and connect. You may never talk to these people ever again. But this networking felt different. It felt like to give you an idea, coming to a family reunion and finally meeting all your cousins. Like, you knew you were related, but you didn't know that you had so much in common and how you were related until you were entering that space. And the networking for me gave me a chance to meet other Black women in marketing, because for those who have worked in the field, again, it could get very lonely. It could get very siloed for you not being able to work with other women who look like you, and often having to feel like you're carrying the culture on your back when it comes to, making sure that the ads are correct or the messaging is correct, or having to hold it down for the Heritage Month because your company doesn't know what to do because they're not tapped into the culture the way you are, or they have not done the work to make sure that they understand at a greater scale outside of their own lens. So from a networking perspective, even sitting down at the table, because I went by myself, I did, sitting down at the table and feeling welcome, feeling like you had a space to show up as your true self. It got to the point, not even going to lie to you, before we even exchanged information, we were sharing stories and validating each other and affirming one another and speaking life into each other and giving each other the things that we need to carry us through to the next time that we have an event like this. And then for networking, even though we exchanged information, you saw people going out to lunch with one another. You saw them hanging out in between sessions and just talking and catching up. And the conversations went from talking about work to digging into actual real life things that we shared with each other because we felt safe to do so. And for me, especially living here in the DMV area, I do recognize that me growing up in a predominantly Black area in a very diverse culture, that my lived experiences are different than other people's lived experiences who may not have had that benefit of being surrounded by people who look like them. And hearing people share about how when they go to work, they're the only Black woman on their team, or sharing how when they have projects come up, bosses who don't get why Black History Month is so important. Having to fight for having your voice in a space that doesn't value your voice, it can be challenging. And it made me realize, despite the challenges I went through, at least I am lucky enough to say that I've had the experience of having a Black leader, whether it's a director or a VP, who looks like me more than once in my professional career. For some of the women I've talked to, they've never had that experience. Having a mentor who looks like you, who's looking out for you, that can be a challenge. And then seeing people, and this is real too, y'all. I'm keeping it real with my audience, but seeing people be amplified into promotional positions who haven't even done twice the work that you have done. That phrase, I think Papa Pope said it in Scandal, but twice as good to get half. Always showing up twice as good. Always showing up top of excellence, operating in excellence, operating as the best. It can become draining because people expect for you always to operate in that space. But then to see other folks who don't even put as close to the amount of work that you're putting in, as close to the effort, and show up just to show up, get amplified over you. And you are better. You have more education than them. You have more knowledge than them. That can start to nick away at your confidence. It could chip away little by little at your confidence, where you're that girl. But when you're in a space that undervalues you and does not see your full worth, it can make you start to question that. So what this conference did, it brought us into a safe space where we can share these experiences and pour back into each other to fill their cup. Fill their cup to let them know that you are more than worthy of being in this space and that you deserve to be there, because you being there shouldn't be a revolutionary statement, but it is. And then also talking about too, in terms of networking, seeing younger marketers there, which again, for me, I have been in the industry for 13 years. I've been in spaces many times. Like I said, I've been the only or the few. And to have these young Black women who are maybe 2 years into their career or just coming fresh out of college, having a chance to connect with us and feel like they have a space that if they need to reach out to someone who looks like them to talk, that is there. If they, are looking for a job opportunity, for a lot of us who are now built up into spaces where we can control the narrative of what we want to see on our teams, we can open that door for them. Knowing that now exists, and that though the struggle And though the challenges still exist, it won't be as hard for them because we are pushing through to do the work. And then on my side, in my full-time role, working in senior marketing as a senior marketing manager, speaking to women who came before me, before even Google existed, when it was even the percentage, I think it went down actually. I think it's 5% of Black women are in marketing from entry level to executive. But knowing that these women were the trailblazers before me and built up the space so I can even exist, having a chance to have that conversation with them was not just enlightening, it was needed. And again, it filled my cup in a way that I cannot fully verbalize to my audience. But I am truly glad that I had a chance to network with other Black women in marketing and feel like I could be in a space where I could show up as my true self. So going into the workshops, I have a few favorites that I did note. There were many workshops that were offered in various breakout sessions. And one of my personal favorites was the one about marketing and AI, the future of communications. What is shared was key tools for navigating the space and building positive relationships with AI with systems like ChatGPT, Microsoft Pilot, and even some systems that I haven't even heard of before because I really don't live in that space of AI yet. As we know, marketing is starting to lean more into technology, so I will have to learn eventually how to use other tools. But more importantly, the takeaway from this was teaching the tools how to work for you and not the other way around. And I thought I was a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs at first when I renamed my Chat GPT Chatty, but according to the panel, I'm in the right space for thinking that way. ChatGPT is supposed to amplify my work, not do my work. And that's something I already knew, but it further affirmed for me. But by naming it Chatty, I am now taking control over the narrative of what ChatGPT and how it's supposed to work for me. Essentially, by creating a personalized approach, ChatGPT or any other system that I choose to use is now learning me and my language and how I communicate and what my voice is in various social media spaces or the written language. Another thing I walked away with that was very important is making sure when we're mentoring the next generation of marketers that we are not chastising them for using these AI tools. Just like when we were coming up in the marketing space or any other professional career, more specifically marketing, during that time, things like social media were very new. Things like Canva, which I have been down for Canva since it launched and it just has simple tools for editing. Lord have mercy, trying to remove a background then was a challenge, but we are here. Amen. Amen. But when I was first coming up in marketing, understanding those who have been in the field longer than me and who hold executive positions and their pushback against having various social media pages, their pushback on things like doing video content or working with influencers or using tools like Canva to create graphics very quickly over using traditional tools like Adobe Photoshop or things like that or InDesign. I now am in a position where I now see why they felt the way that they did. But in order for me to embrace this next generation of marketers, I also had to lean into the tools that they are used to make sure that I am teaching them how to use these tools to their benefit, but still build their strategic thinking that will allow for them to use the tool as a benefit instead of a crutch for them to lean on for building out their entire strategic process or campaign deliverables. So it did teach me a lot in that conversation, hearing from their perspective of what we can be doing to foster that talent and build that talent for the next generation so they know that these tools are there for them to use, but still the core of what they need to know is important as well while being amplified through AI. Another workshop that I did love is one called Connect 4 in terms of connecting with matter. And it was a high engagement workshop focused on building spaces for key and impactful networking. What she did, which was different, I think her name was Shantae. Shantae or Chantel, one of them. But what she did was different. She segmented us by our zodiac signs to build relationships. So she called us out by signs and had us come out. You know, of course the Leos would allow us in the room per usual. But I had to represent for my Cancers. for my fellow crabs. But once she put us into our groups, she allowed for us to then get into the space and gave us various prompts. And those prompts were scenarios for creating conversations to build networks. For example, one of the prompts was the connector. An example she used for the connector is Issa Rae. And the connector is the one who's a bit more social, who knows everybody, who connects you with the right people to make sure that you are building your professional or educational opportunities or just building your network, because they say your net worth is your net worth. And apparently, according to my mama, I'm the connector. But I kind of peeped game from that the moment I saw that explanation. I was like, yeah, that's definitely me. The other categories included, and I don't have them all on the top of my head, but it was the connector, it was the mentor, I believe, and there was one that was called the sponsor, and I think the last one was the encourager. So there were 4 different categories. And from there, we had to discuss as a group, which of these 4 categories do you need the most for your career right now? And depending on what you need, practice the scenarios that are outlined on the paper to pitch to someone who can meet that need for you for where you are in your career. Now, the cancers, we did what typical cancers do. We listened, we took notes, but then when we started talking, we started having a full-on therapy session at our table and talking about different challenges that we're dealing with in the careers and stuff like that. So essentially, we did not do our work. We did it. And when it came time for us to actually present, we winged it. We winged it, but we were still very successful. But what I loved about this is it outlined on paper the areas that we need the most in our careers to get us forward. While I may be the connector, but I've also been indirectly the mentor. And now serving as a mentor for the Content Marketing Institute's program, I now serve formally as a mentor for someone else in their career who's located on the other side of the country. Another thing I didn't think about either, too, that I need for my career is a sponsor. Because now that I am a senior manager in my field, I'm now in that middle stage of my career where I'm up, but I'm not in that C-suite yet. And even if I want to be in that C-suite is another question. But the sponsor is not just looking at it from a level standpoint in your career, but that sponsor can be someone who pitches you for a speaking opportunity or pitches you to be on someone else's podcast or something like that. That sponsor is a person who's talking about you in rooms you haven't even entered yet. And indirectly, depending on what you have decided to do with your career, you can fall into those various categories depending on who you're engaging with and what your goals are. So I could be the connector one day. I could be a mentor the next, which has happened many a time. I can also be someone's sponsor, which I have done, and speaking about people in rooms they haven't entered yet, because once I believe in you, that's it. Once I see you doing the work, I am rooting for you every single step of the way. And I will make sure when I see an opportunity that I identify it and I make sure that you are included in that conversation. And being the kind of person who recognizes that these few categories that I listed to you are important for us to make sure that we're building and fostering the growth in our community was a really great session to attend. And I love the way that she broke us up into our zodiac signs, because there is, no matter how you feel about it, there is a commonality when you engage with people who are similar zodiac signs to you. There's a certain understanding that goes into speaking to people, because you don't have to, try to figure people out or anything like that. A lot of things that you have within you innately is also in them. So having that empathy is a very Cancer thing. Being very caring is a Cancer thing. But also we are leaders, being cardinal signs. We are people who can take charge and take initiative, but we lead a lot with emotional intelligence. So I love the fact that she was very creative in how she broke us into those groups, and making sure that in those groups, by us being common signs or the same sign, that there wasn't one leader in our pack. I speak specifically for the Cancer table. There wasn't one leader in our pack. We all worked together to make sure that we were on the same page, and that even when we messed up by not doing our homework, we stuck together in our decision. No one threw each other under the bus. We made sure that no one was embarrassed, but at the same time, we were also cheering for each other when we went up to present out for our group. One thing that I did like about this conference was I saw a lot of people that I knew already in the industry, whether directly or indirectly. Like, for example, Marissa Potts, who owns her own PR company, Cook, which, he got a government name, but I know him as Cook, okay? He is a creative architect who's behind a lot of great initiatives here in the DMV area. And when I found out Cook was having a workshop, essentially a live podcast recording of his podcast with his team, I believe the podcast is called Creatively Speaking, I had to go by and support him. And the reason why I decided to leave this last in the workshop is it goes back into the whole tie into community. The thing with being in marketing, specifically being Black and Black women in marketing, is building community. I could have easily attended another workshop in which I could walk away some important things for me to bring back to my team, but I chose to support Cook because Cook has always supported me. And one of the main things is creatives, once you build that creative community, you stand 10 toes down for the people who stand 10 toes down about you. And what I want to say about Cook is he is someone who I'm also going to have on the podcast because we did an interview earlier this year. I can't wait for that episode to come out. I got to edit that, by the way. But one thing about Cook is when he puts his effort behind something, you can see that vision come to life. And he puts 110% of his knowledge and his expertise. I haven't said this to him in person, but I should say that to him next time I see him. Cook gives me the energy that I see from someone like a Kev on Stage. If you're familiar with Kev on Stage started out just having a vision for what he wanted to create in terms of being a creative and creating content and building spaces for inclusive and creatives within various industries. He took that time to build and now is seeing the fruits of his labor. It did not happen overnight. It took a lot of risk. It took a lot of long nights. It took sacrifice of his wife, Mrs. Kevin on Stage, to see that vision come to life. But he stayed persistent with it. He stayed true to his vision, started out first as a comedian in the gospel, like church space, and evolved from there, where now he has a show called Churchy on BET, and I believe on BET Plus they air the previous season. Similar to Cook. Cook, I can't tell you exactly how we met, but I think we met at a podcast event many years ago. I think more than 7+ years ago at this point. But Cook and I met, and at the time, I think he was working as a team member in the government, like more on the services side, right? And I was still a coordinator at my former employer at National Harbor. I worked in tourism marketing at National Harbor here in the DMV. And we connected, and it's been love ever since. And whether he's having something and I'm able to make it, whether I'm doing something and he's able to support me, it's never any question whether we're going to show up for each other. When we saw each other at the event, it was nothing but love the moment we saw each other. It was hugs, it was smiles, this and the other. It was catching up very quickly. And the first thing I asked him, because I saw it on his social media page, what time is your workshop? Because I wanted to make sure I made it there to support him. I wanted to make sure that he saw me show up for him the way we show up for each other in various things. So let's talk about those areas of opportunity while we get to close to the end of our episode. So areas of opportunity for the conference, and please let me let you know this as well. And I've already explained this to the creators and team behind this conference. These are not criticisms to tear down the work that you have built. They are not. Because one thing that we need to always recognize, criticism does not mean negative feedback, right? Areas of opportunity. When you're working on a marketing campaign, no campaign is perfect, no matter how much work you put into it. There's always an area of opportunity. When we identify those areas of opportunity, these are chances to help amplify and raise impact. And this conference is so impactful for what is done already in this inaugural year, including all the work that has been done before that, because the organization Black Women Marketers and Marketer Hub has held various workshops, various virtual networking events, and different things they have done to impact and change the culture in the right direction. This was their inaugural conference. So noting that, there is so much work that can be continued to be done to bring this even higher. So let's first start with partnership with local tourism. As a former tourism marketing girly, I'm always thinking about things about partnering with local tourism because that tends to be an area that is missed when it comes to conferences. When I worked as a senior marketing tourism coordinator for National Harbor, there was a program I created called Show Your Badge. And it seemed like low hanging fruit. But in hindsight, the Show Your Badge program was a great way to drive business to local businesses in the National Harbor area, also including a discount for people who chose to support those businesses. It helped to drive business, it helped to drive awareness and that foot traffic. Otherwise, it is hard for people sometimes if you're coming from outside the area, you're unfamiliar with the city that you're going to. I'm the kind of person, whenever I go visit somewhere, I am very quick to Google or even ask people who live in that region or who have visited what is there to do, what is there to see, what is there to eat. But I think from a tourism lens, especially working in the field for about 5 years. Having some type of Show Your Badge program will allow for the conference to build relationships with those local businesses, as well, like I said before, cross promoting those local businesses within the conference spectrum. You can have that included, like we did, on an event landing page, whether it lives on the key tourism page. For example, we were in Alexandria, so it lives on Visit Alexandria's page by partnering with them. Then you can also have it as a digital slide, QR code that's available in the presentation slides that are up throughout the entire conference. You can also have it included with the workshop materials that people receive when they come in. So making sure that people are aware multiple times that these discounts are available. In terms of supporting the creator economy is having some kind of marketer's market. And this could be potentially a pop-up market to purchase tools or equipment. As a marketer, it can get expensive to do our career. We always need to upgrade our tech. We always need to have some kind of new selfie stick or tripod. I have at least 4 different tripods in my creator toolbox. Whether it's a 6 foot tall one, a handheld one that swivels and folds in my purse, one with an attachable light. We have so many things that we need for creating content and doing our jobs. So having a pop-up market on site that we can purchase tools or equipment we can use, whether it's like battery packs, selfie lights, things like that, but have it be from inclusive brands. I think a lot of times when we lean into tech, we could be unaware that there are inclusive brands out there that create the same things that we need. So this conference can help build and amplify awareness for those smaller brands that are focused on the creator market. Another thing I think will be great, which they did very good, but further amplifying, is doing some kind of social media live feed. So, for example, I love the stories content that they gave and like the day of recaps and things like that. I think that is really great. But maybe having an opportunity for those who may be at home watching live on social media certain workshops, not all the workshops, but certain workshops live on social, and giving them a sneak peek taste of what to expect if they choose to attend the conference next year. One thing, too, that I would like to know is specialty merchandise for attendees. This is something that we do for my organization. I work with ACS. For our conferences for the spring and fall, we offer a specialty lapel pin for those who are members of the organization. Now, thinking about this even further, the conference can create a specialty lapel pin for the first 50 attendees, or maybe for those who are members already of the organization. Further expanding that wellness focus piece that was already there with Black Girl Vitamins and the apparel brand. There could be things like a recharge station. So knowing that conferences can be very draining no matter how much energy you're giving to them, there could be a recharge station with like wellness items. There could be, water. You can have maybe like a mini Pilates or like a yoga break or something that's focused around wellness, even like a nap area. Because to tell you the truth, as much as I love engaging with my fellow marketers, we require a lot of energy. And when you attend the workshops and you're doing a lot of thinking, taking notes, asking questions, taking a nap is a beautiful thing. And I know a lot of people were attending from out of town, but for those of us who are local and who drove into the Northern Virginia area to attend the conference, having somewhere where we can recharge and relax would have been really great, and I think a great addition to the conference. And then finally, thinking about those areas of opportunity, amplifying their interactive engagement. So there's things like, again, for my current employer, we have a wall in which people can write messages about why they are proud to be part of the industry that they're in. So doing something like that, perhaps having a wall with, the Black Women Marketers Conference logo or something like that on the wall. And it could be a brand new whiteboard with a prompt. It can ask a question, and the question can change for each day of the conference to keep that content fresh. Then you can also do capturing that content and repurposing it for social media. So getting like some videos of people writing up on the wall, doing like a recap of, what the top comments are, something like that, and key takeaways that maybe like advice that people are giving from, one marketer to another. Another thing for interactive engagement that I've identified is creating some kind of marketer confession booth. And that could be sharing any mistakes or learning lessons from your career. Again, as someone who's been in the industry for 13 years, it has not been perfect. I have made mistakes that, let's talk about some of those things, because girl, what were you thinking? But those learning lessons have improved me in my career and made me even better to move forward and move ahead. And I do share that with people when I see them going through something that could be a similar pitfall to the decisions that I have made that help to push me back, essentially, or even taught me a lesson to the point I lost my job. But again, having some type of marketer confession booth, that could be really cool engagement to then repurpose into like audio only format to protect the innocent who are sharing that information, or some kind of like, cute anonymous post in which that content is then shared, blurring out the faces or something like that of the people who were providing that confessional information. In our last segment for the recap episode, why creating these spaces matter. One is the importance of building community. Again, authentically connecting with others. It's something that I love to do in my work, and it was something that I saw throughout the conference, that authentic connection. Number two, in the importance of building community, hyping up our fashions or fixing our hair. And that seemed like something so small, but seeing Black women help each other out before they took a photo, or noticing something about their outfit and letting them know, hey sis, just fix that collar a little bit, or, fix your lipstick or something like that. Those things are why those spaces matter. Because when I go to different conferences, I may not feel comfortable talking to someone about those things, or, sharing hair tips in the bathroom and stuff like that. And then hearing things like, yes, queen, or you ate, or okay, blue suit, like things that are specific to our culture, is so important for us to continue to create those safe spaces. Number two, and why creating these spaces matter, affirming our own experiences. As I shared in the top of the episode, things like microaggressions that I have experienced in my career and continue to experience in various ways, microaggressions chip away at your confidence. No matter how smart you are, no matter how, how much you bring to the table, no matter how high up you are in your career, microaggressions are a way of chipping down and eating away at who you are and what you can do. And then being the only in the room. Being the only in the room, imagine dealing with that every single day. Whether you're the only in your department, or you're the only in your entire organization, or you're the only in senior leadership. Having no one really there to be your support system who looks like you, it is a comfort to be in a room with people who look like you, who shared your experiences, that you don't have to over explain anything. They just get it. And that is something beautiful that this conference has created. And then finally, in our last two things, providing advice for younger marketers coming up in the industry. Again, as I mentioned in the top of the episode, seeing things like workshops led by Black marketers from across the industry, from AI to advertising, was so important. Because when I attend conferences, it is very rare I attend anything led by a Black woman or a Black person or a person of color. I even play a game, to tell you the truth. I play a game of spot the diversity sometimes when I go to conferences and I look at the speakers. And I scroll and I scroll and I scroll. And then when I stop, I'm like, okay, that's one. And I keep counting to see out of all these speakers they have for the conference, how many of those people are people of color and how many of them are from the African American culture, right? Or the diaspora. It doesn't happen a lot. And when I went to this conference, seeing all the workshops being led by Black women was so amazing to witness. And I really think I was more engaged because I was seeing someone who looked like me up there sharing their expertise in a way that felt authentic and real for us. And then lastly, and underneath, providing advice for younger marketers, a chance to connect with seasoned marketers who were early adopters of a lot of leading sectors in the industry. Like I shared, one of my favorite workshops was about AI. Knowing that one of the people in the workshop was one of the leading charges behind AI and the work that she was doing, and knew people who were influential in building systems and structures in place that kept us in mind, was so great to hear. Because I never would have knew she even existed if it wasn't for that conference. Finally, in Why Creating These Spaces Matter, this conference was a conference that centered us as the focus and not as an afterthought. What I enjoyed was attending this event, seeing myself, seeing me centered in the narrative and not part of insert, cultural experience here as part of the overall programming that was offered for learning. By doing that, it not only validated so many of us, but it also showed the value of what we bring to the table as Black marketers, as Black women marketers, as women, and more specifically in a broader sense, as women of color. It was so great to see that, to feel that, to hear that, and to experience it over the 2 days that I was there. And I really do hope that this conference returns. I hope that those who are watching or listening to this podcast will have an opportunity to attend, because I really want to see this grow to a bigger stage, to the point if you don't get your tickets early, you ain't going, because that's how high the demand will be for attending something like this. So, I hope you enjoyed today's chat. I hope you enjoyed my recap of the conference, and I know it's a little bit different from the marketing magic that we usually do. So don't forget to follow Coffee with Yvonne on Instagram and Threads at Coffee with Yvonne. You can sign up for my newsletter to get personalized audio and video content, Coffee with Yvonne podcast episode teasers, and marketing magic breakdowns from your favorite campaigns by visiting the show notes. For my personal account to see who I am on a day-to-day basis, go ahead and find me on Instagram, TikTok, aka the Clock app, or fan base at Yvonne_creative marketer. To learn more about me and my business, go ahead and visit pinkdollhousemarketing.com to check out my website, or you can go to Pink Dollhouse Marketing on Instagram. You can slide into my DMs. That's cool. To my fellow creatives, remember to keep showing up, keep creating, and that your voice matters. I'll see you next time on Coffee with Yvonne, and I cannot wait to chat with you soon. Okay, bye! Coffee with Yvonne is produced and edited by Yvonne Pearson. Coffee with Yvonne is created by Pink Dollhouse Marketing. You can catch the latest episodes by subscribing to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.